Oh, this kind of stuff. It's comedic in nature. Really should be left to satire type fucking publications. But no, CBC News Politics. Statistics Canada celebrates best census since 1666. 1666. So that's even before Canada became actual Canada. We're talking back then was Upper and Lower Canada, and I mean, we were not even close to being an actual, Confederate or a government contrived of a federal political entity and then provincial entities, right? I mean, but anyways, even better than that still is the response rate for newly restored long-form census was 97.8%, the best ever recorded, agency reports. Let's get into the meat of the conversation, though, right? Let's get down into, hey, I wonder why Canadians were so gung-ho to participate in this particular census going back 1600s to, so what, almost 400 years? I wonder what would make Canadians so goddamn gung-ho to participate and giving information and telling the government all about themselves. All right. Of course, because it's mandatory. So the government creates a situation where they force you to fill out the census with the express and implied premise of if you don't, you will be fined or imprisoned for what? I think it's up to 6 months. So it's like if I walk up to some frail, young, innocent girl and threaten her with violence that she gives me her purse, otherwise I will, beat her down, and she gives me the purse, and I do this 10 times, and 9 out of 10 times they give me the purse, it's like I can claim, look, what I do is obviously must be pretty fucking good because look, everybody is willing to go along with it. Look, the majority of people accept me stealing the purse. Well, no, it's because I'm fucking using force, right? And the threat of force as a means to an end. So to brag that the Canadian census, the fact that there are so many Canadians that were willing participants in this particular fucking bullshit is, I mean, come on. How could you toot your own horn of even trying to suggest that Canadians are on board with something when you actually literally have to not just force them, but threaten them with violence, imprisonment, incarceration, or stealing a portion of their wealth if they don't? I mean, really, I should just shut the fucking video off at this stage of the game, and I shouldn't even say another word after this because I think everything that needs to be said has already been said. It's forced participation, so of course you're going to have a very, very, very high number of people that are going to participate because that tells you actually another thing actually that kind of outlines to people is, well, doesn't that mean that the majority of Canadians are actually non-confrontational and just want to go along to get along? Does that not mean that they're willing to even accept the fact that they are being forced to do it, but it's like, hey, if it keeps the peace. So that just tells me that most Canadians seem to have a predisposition to being non-confrontational and warlike, right? But that's the thing. Politicians take full advantage of the fact that on this tax farm, this plantation called Canada, they take full advantage of the fact that they have a lot of very obedient conformists that are willing to just go along, get along, don't want to rock the boat, don't want to cause any controversy, just want to put their head down, put their nose to the grindstone, do what they got to do, and appease their masters. In that scenario, if that's a scenario, which is what it looks like to me, what's the fucking need for a central authority when you have that many people that are just obviously it doesn't take much. They're willing to go along with this kind of fucking bullshit. And if you look at it, even in the long form census, so that was is the best census ever at 98.4%. But even if you go into the long form census, that is 97.8% of Canadians were willing to go along with that. And that was instead of a 10-question survey, right? So the short form census that most Canadians got were basically a 1-page, 10-question short version. But for those who received the long form census, instead of the 10 questions, they were forced to participate in a 36-page long form questionnaire known as the National Household Survey. So 36 fucking pages. I mean, think about the kind of shit you're filling out and giving, like, talk about, it's like being interrogated and being forced to give all the answers to the central planners that they want. This is forced interrogation, is what it is. The long form census is forced interrogation to force Canadians to give government fuck central planners access to every aspect of their life, basically. I mean, for anyone to show any pride in the fact that there's this many Canadians that are willing to just, not even stand up for their own rights and freedoms, to just go along, get along, I'm ashamed of it. Personally, I think it's disgusting. I hate the fact that I'm surrounded by that many people that are so sheepish and unwilling to stand up for their rights or their freedoms. But at the same time, it tells me that these people are so non-confrontational that what the fuck do you need central planning governments if you have that many people? If you're touting your own horn that there's, almost 90% of Canadians, well, that's the thing. Sorry, 90, my mistake, 98.4 and 97. So almost 100%, shy of what, 2-3% of Canadians basically expressed their willingness to go along to get along. So if that's the case, what the fuck do you need central planning? Why do you need the gun in the room at all the times when you're proven that the Canadian people are so sheepish, so indoctrinated, so willing to go along to get along that they'll do whatever the fuck you ask them? But yet you're seeing the police state, the surveillance state, the amount of laws, and the oppressive nature of central planners and control freaks and sociopaths. What's the need of all that? It tells me it's a whole lot of overkill. It tells me they're expending a whole lot of resources and economic prosperity, wealth. They're throwing it out the window basically because there's no need of having a big, gigantic, monolithic type government, central planning coercive entity, when you have this many people that are willing to just do whatever the fuck they're told. It's a sad reality that I think most people need to start to acknowledge and own up to and realize that Canada is a sad spot. It's in a sad place. Not as bad as the UK. We don't have quite the history, but there's a lot of fucking slaves in this country. Part of me wants to feel sorry for them, but the other part of me is like, wake the fuck up. Wake the fuck up. Recognize and realize the world that you currently live in. Stop going along to get along. Grow some balls. Grow some courage. Have some self-respect, some dignity. It's Canadian Libertarian. And I love liberty.